some time and you'll be back another day. I can see us breaking down the barrier. Oh yeah. With the speed of light we cross the stratosphere. Oh yeah. We can go so far, so far away. Baby, let's go far, so far, you and me. Let's dance the night away, we're alive together, far away, you and me. We'll have a celebration to an unknown destination, can't you see? I can see us breaking down the barrier. Oh yeah. With the speed of light we cross the stratosphere. Oh yeah. We can go so far, so far away. Baby, let's go far, so far, you and me. We'll dance all night till the break of dawn. Come on now, let your feelings show. Oh baby. We'll dance all night till the break of dawn. Come on now, let your feelings show. Oh baby. We'll dance all night till the break of dawn. Come on now, let your feelings show. Oh baby. We'll dance all night till the break of dawn. Come on now, let your feelings show. Oh baby.
Sorry, guys. I forgot to remove that scene before I went live. So you guys got a little fun, different screen. You know what? It's nothing if not technical problems, of all. Hello, everybody. Happy 2021. Can you believe it? I can't believe 2020 is finally over. I feel like we've been through so much stuff in 2020 that we need to start fresh in 2021, and it's crazy. So I want to say a quick hello to those of you I see in the chat. Hello, Alyssa. Hello, Jane. Hello. This is his name. That's challenging. Talperian Numenor. I probably butchered it. Hello, Emma. Hello, Organized Fora. Hello, Michaela. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Amber. Hello, Poet Pianist. Hello, Ginger Ram. Is that how you say your name? Hello, S. Oak. Hello, Evelyn. Hello, Darcy. Hello, Rue. Hello, everybody out there. Is that you're having in the background? It is. We are still sharing an office. Even in 2021. So it is what it is. So I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and wonderful New Year's. We had a quiet New Year's here. If you were over on my Animal Crossing channel, you know that I have celebrated during a live stream online. It was really fun. But I hope all of you are staying safe and happy and are ready to kill it in 2021. So, because it is Get Organized Month, I thought it would be a great thing to have my friend Lorna on. Oh, I forgot to pot up some video of Lorna and I, but you guys have seen Lorna before when we went to IKEA together. I was surprised that she had never been to IKEA before, but she's been to IKEA now. And she is a wonderful, not only a wonderful singer, and a fantastic friend, but a amazing coach for people in transition and organizations in transition to deal with change and uncertainty. So I thought she'd be the perfect person to have on at the beginning of the year. So guys, give her a warm welcome. Here is Lorna Jane Norris. Hello. How are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing well. Kay, thank you so much for having me on your show. And I second oh my goodness, 2021.
Yes. 2020 was a time.
2020 was a time, but and we've still got a ways to go. And so I think, at the end of the day, January 1st is just another day in the year, and we've got a ways to go before we're out of this. So I think continuing to get support and ideas and have people like who are checking out this feed today, having community is really, really important as we continue to weather this together.
Yeah, I agree. And it is just a day. And I just want to let everyone know how Lorna and I actually know each other, Lorna Jane. We went to graduate school together in Cambridge at the Longy School of Music. Longy.
Just 21 years ago. 21 years ago.
21 years ago.
21.
I cannot believe it. But we've been friends ever since. And I am really happy to say we've gotten to know each other a lot better lately in the past year, especially since the pandemic started. We've been having our weekly Zoom chats with a few other girlfriends and been just really enjoying the time. And Lorna, do you want to tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and how you came to do this coaching?
Sure. So, much like maybe many of the folks who are checking us out today, I also lost my job right at the beginning of the year, right before COVID hit, actually. I'd had a career in arts management, and it came to an unexpected end, and the rug got pulled out from under me, if you like. And so I had this opportunity, as challenging as it was, to reinvent myself personally and professionally. And so I decided to launch my own business, LJN Advisory, and I specialized in coaching and consulting individuals and organizations to not just manage transition, but embrace transition, and to really help people to get into that opportunity mindset around when there's some kind of great transition or even disruption that happens in your life. It really is helpful to us to kind of approach it from an optimistic stance and say, okay, this is a period of time where I can really take a good look at the things that are no longer serving me and making me happy, and to start to align my future happiness with the way that I spend my life. And this is where what you and I do, Kay, is really similar. Like, we are our stuff. We are accumulators. Human beings are accumulators. We accumulate education, stuff, assets, relationships, friendships, accomplishments, experiences, and we accumulate and we accumulate and we accumulate. And then as life goes into its second half, we start to make decisions about decluttering. and what are the things that actually maybe we don't need anymore, that don't align with our current identity. So you and I have known each other 21 years. We have made a decision that we are friends for life, and that those are intentional decisions that we've made, whereas other relationships maybe we've decided a part of a former life that we had. So we are both in the business of helping people to, in order to organize themselves, you also have to let go of things, and that's a big part of what transitioning is all about.
I love that. I love that. I actually went through a little bit of a transition, a little bit with my closet, and finding things that were just, I mean, just not one size too small, but maybe two sizes too small.
Right.
And I go through this with a lot of my clients as well, who they want to hold on to a lot of that. I like to say that size stuff from, a different time, And I do feel like accepting some of those changes, even if they're happening to your body, whatever, is very it's difficult, but it's something we have to deal with, and we should be equipped to deal with.
This is a great example. So like, I don't know about you and your guests, but I haven't bought an item of clothing all year that hasn't had an elasticated waist. That I have one drawer of clothes that I'm wearing, literally one drawer of clothes that I'm wearing, and a whole
Same.
closet of clothes that I just look at once a month and go, what? Anyway, so outside of this year, which has been unusual, if, do you throw out an item of clothing every time you buy one? Probably not. We accumulate clothing, right? And it takes a disruption, maybe like a move, in order for us to say, now, what do I want to bring with me and put in my new closet? But if those disruptions don't happen, we tend to just accumulate. And I'm sure you find this with your clients. We have a lot of attachment to our stuff, especially clothes, because maybe we bought them for a specific time or an event, or they're related to who we are as human beings. So if I look at my closet now, I'm going to turn 47 this month. I might have one or two items of clothing that I had when I was 37. Maybe a gown,
Wow.
Kay. Maybe a gown that I wore at a gig. But pretty much, because I've moved a lot in the last few years, I've regularly made an assessment about what am I really wearing. And I think we mostly wear the clothes that we bought in the last 1 to 3 years. I'd be interested to know what your guests would say about that, because they reflect like the current activities that you do, what your body currently feels like, your current professional work and identity, the kinds of things that you do during your day, what makes you feel good about yourself. And the clothes that you have that you're not wearing in your wardrobe maybe belong to a former identity that you had. And so, yeah, it sometimes takes something like a move or a downsize for you to make those decisions about what's no longer of use to you in your closet. And that's what's happened in 2020. 2020 has just been an enormous disruptor of our normal way of doing things, and arguably the largest, and people will be arguing and writing about this for a long time, since World War II. On an absolute full system level, everyone's life has been impacted. And as we look forward to 2021, people are really grabbing on to thinking about, do I want my life to go back to looking the way it was pre-COVID? Or is this what's turning out to be quite an extended opportunity to think about what I want my life to look like moving forward? And so it sounds very easy to say something like that because people are under extraordinary pressures and in very challenging circumstances. But it is an opportunity to clean out your clothes closet on a metaphorical sense. What are the things that you want and need to bring you happiness and fulfillment and sustainability in as COVID winds down during this year?
I hope so. I hope it does wind down because we're all sick of it.
We are all sick of it.
What do you think is the biggest roadblock for people in when they try to change their behavior or change their lives or develop new habits? What do you think is something that stops most people?
Um, I think it's probably just sort of innate resistance that we have to doing things differently or to doing different things. So I'm going to actually differentiate between that. It takes a different amount of energy to do something you're already doing differently than it does to do different things. Sometimes it's easier for us to say, you know what, I'm going to try something brand new because we don't have any familiar attachment to it or a failed attempt at it, or we're not stuck in, to use your word, the habits and behaviors of doing something in a certain way. But if we try to modify our current habits and behaviors, they are so queued up by our current circumstances, and we have a lot of experience with them. So again, it's this idea of we have attachment and comfort to the way that we already do things. And we have a sort of resistance and a fear to sort of taking a deep look as to whether actually something is still serving us in our lives anymore. So yeah, it's incredible how difficult it is for us to admit or to come to terms with the things in our lives that are no longer helpful to us or that are no longer aligned to the person that we're becoming as we age. And some of the work that I do with my clients is about sort of surfacing what those things are and putting out other possibilities of things that they might not have considered. Or maybe they have a lot of external cues or circumstances in their lives that seem like they're barriers. Like we all say, I just don't have time for that. I just don't have time for that. And that there may be a lot of truth in it. And people, I know what I'm about to say maybe is a little hard to
I've probably
hear.
already said it, so go ahead.
We do have time for it. We do have time for it, whatever the it is. It is a choice that we can make to make time for it. Like for you, when you're advising your clients about reorganizing their space, there is space for them to reorganize things. It is a decision of you have to declutter first and make the space for it. And that's, to answer your original question, that's where people get stuck. They've got to be ready and willing to let go of the things that they don't need anymore to make room for new things. So another example around this is if you have an employer who maybe regularly looks at your job description with you and once a year says, now, exciting news, I want to give you this new responsibility. And you're like, great, that sounds like a great opportunity. And you say to them, so which responsibilities on my job description can I take off in order to be able to give my attention to this new project that you've given me? And supervisors tend to try to sneak the new responsibilities, and your job description just gets bigger and bigger, and you take on more and more responsibility, and that is not sustainable or realistic, and it is not setting you up for success in doing well in this new initiative that the supervisor has asked you to do. Every time you add something to the job description, you have to take off or delegate a task that's on your job description from a former time. Does that make sense?
That is actually, that is real. I never even thought of it that way. That way, you're just adding on to this pile. And I feel like it's the same when I am coaching people through decluttering and their stuff. And I did say, I have said, and it does sound like tough love to say that there is time for the things that you say that you don't have time for. I always want to reiterate that in maybe certain circumstances, maybe there isn't time, but most of the time, I believe that people want to hold on to some things from who they were or who they want to be, but it's not a priority. And therefore, there is time. If they wanted it to be a priority, they would make the time. Like if they wanted to paint and they have all their paint stuff, maybe you would wake up earlier and paint, or you would make time, after dinner, after the baby's asleep, or what have you. But right now, if that's not the person you are, then I feel like that's okay. And I feel like it's really hard for people to accept that the person they want to be is not the person they are. And sometimes it's okay to be who you are. I always want to be the person. I wanted to be that person who did the watercolor painting and the oil painting and stuff, but that's just not who I am.
Right.
And so I will, my creative outlet is through other means. But I feel like that's a really important thing to point out, is that there often is time. There
Right.
often is time, but we just don't make the time.
Yeah, and to kind of repeat myself a little bit, I don't think we increase our happiness by adding on more things in our life. So maybe you have a list of things that you've always wanted to do, like water painting or going to the gym more or seeing friends more. You say, and you start the new year and people say, this year I'm going to make sure I do this. You add it in. There isn't really the room for it. It's not successful. You become disappointed in yourself, and it quickly becomes then a failure. That wasn't successful. Maybe I don't want to do that. And the doubt comes in, or even shame comes in. And then, you're not likely then, or it's much harder to then try it again, maybe when you do have time. So again, as you really set your intentions and your goals for what you want moving forward, the heart of transitions work is understanding that every new beginning starts with the ending of something. What is ending in your life? What are the possibilities that are out there? And then the new beginnings is just a very small part of transitioning. Transitioning is mostly about understanding who you are in the now and letting go of things that are no longer serving you.
That's so powerful. This is some powerful, powerful stuff. We did get some questions in the community
Sure.
tab if you want to take a stab at those.
Yeah.
So Allison Berry writes, I was furloughed last March when COVID first hit, furloughed for 6 months and then let go from my job. I've been struggling all year, feel sad, grieving the loss of my job twice. Now trying to figure out what path I should take. I'm 61 and nearing retirement. I am married and probably don't really have to work, except if my hubby retires, I'll need the health insurance. Should I just take anything I can get, or should I wait to get the pay I desire? Should I change course as far as jobs go, feeling adrift in a sea of decisions? Oh, this is a lot.
Yeah, and this is, I'm sure, a really common experience, and actually has somewhat been my experience as well. So, Alison, first of all, I have the double loss of being furloughed and then laid off. So, I just want to say I'm so sorry for your experience, and I hear your struggle, and feel and experience your struggle. Obviously there are circumstances within your situation that are more nuanced than what's represented in your question. But what I was drawn to in your question straight away was the final 3 questions, your 3 shoulds. Should I just take anything I can? Should I wait to get the pay I desire? Should I change course as far as jobs go? Well, those are 3 really interesting questions, and I think deserve pulling out of your question and putting in front of yourself for some intentional consideration. So as I look at, I'm going to make some assumptions based on just reading your question. So I'm going to make an assumption that the first of your questions is your least desired. Should I just take anything I can get? Right? So I'm going to guess that if you were to sort of put your 3 questions in order of which ones feel most desirable to you, I'm going to guess you're going to put that one last. Should I just take anything I can get? That sounds reactionary, right? The other two questions are interesting because they're not exclusive. So should I wait to get the pay I desire? And should I change course as far as jobs go? So you could do both of those things at the same time. While you're waiting for potentially an opportunity to come along that gives you the pay and the conditions that you desire and want and presumably deserve, you could also be exploring this last question, which for me is the most interesting question. Should I change course as far as jobs go? So this is the question where there is opportunity and possibility. I obviously completely understand that there are financial circumstances. You mentioned your husband may be retiring. There's benefits. It's much more nuanced than I know about. But this goes back to the idea about disruption. You've had a disruption. You've had the rug pulled out from under you. Maybe you wouldn't have pulled out your own rug. I'm not sure that I would have pulled out my own rug being an arts executive. I had benefits. I had a good salary. I had responsibility. I had influence. I had strong identity. I had a powerful role. And all of a sudden, those things went away. And I'm not sure I'd have pulled my own rug out. It got pulled out for me. And I was forced to ask myself, should I change course as far as jobs go? And while you're waiting, maybe for a better opportunity for the pay that you deserve and desire, I would recommend spending some time there. What might I like to do? Did Alison say how old she is?
61.
Are there things, Alison, that maybe you've always wanted to do professionally that align with who you are becoming as a human being? You know, maybe you are a baker. Maybe there are hobbies that you have that you might want to convert into ways of making some income. Is this an opportunity to make a more significant transition in your professional life as you move into what is presumably kind of the last professional journey that you're going to have before you retire? So while you're waiting, take that last question. If you were to change course at this point in your life, what might you like to do? I think that's a question that you've earned to ask yourself at this point in your life.
This is some on point advice. Allison's actually here.
Hi, Allison.
She asked a question, said, would volunteering in other fields be advisable?
Well, I mean, if that's something that calls to you and that you're in a position to be able to do, absolutely. So if you don't mind me sharing a personal experience here, in response to that question, so I have just started volunteering for the Friends of the Blue Hills, which is a huge reservation here in Massachusetts. And while I'm waiting for an opportunity to come up for me that will give me the pay and conditions that I desire and deserve, I really wanted to make sure that I not only continue to stay active and connected and to keep myself working, using my skills, so I reached out to the executive director of this small nonprofit organization, and I said, is there any way, I can't afford to donate right now, but is there any way that I could be helpful? And she went to her board, and I recently started to become the chair of their membership committee. And that's just been really fulfilling for me. And, at my stage in my career, that looks great on my resume. So I'm building my skills. I've met new people. I'm giving back to something that has been of enormous help to me as I've navigated this very transition. I run in the Blue Hills often, and that's really part of my therapy and my self-care. So to be able to give back to that organization has been really meaningful, and it may lead to work down the road. That's another really important thing to remember when you volunteer. Sometimes paid opportunities can come out of that. So
That is
yes,
some.
Alison.
That's great advice. That's great advice. I know that you run
Good
up
luck,
hills all the
Alison.
time.
I do all the
She's
time.
a. Oh my gosh, you're such an avid runner. I told you, like the last time I ran, I like fell down and like scraped my my knees and
I
my
fall pretty
elbows.
regularly.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. It's not so much falling as kind of throwing yourself at the ground at
Yeah,
pretty
that's
high
right.
speed. But I've got good at it. I've got the whole roll, and then you get right up and you keep on running. But hey, when you fall in the woods, does anyone ever really know?
No one really knows. But I remember I fell in the street in JP like 10 years ago, and some people came over, they're like, "Are you okay? Like, are you gonna be okay? Did you break something?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine." And I got up and I
That's
ran
fine.
the rest of the run, and I took the most painful shower of my life at home. You know, if you like scrape skin, it just gets so painful. Um,
Actually, Kay, you just brought up, can I just say, you just brought up a really important point that I want to get out.
sure.
When we fall down
Mm.
and someone comes to you and asks if you need help, we really, and women, us women, we really have to be okay with saying yes. So I'll share a little
Absolutely.
anecdote, and that's part of what I do as a coach. I offer and partner with people to provide them with some guidance and support as they're going through a difficult time. I was running in the hills the other day, and I know my way around pretty well, right? And I passed three men separately, all of whom I could tell were lost. And I said, "Can I help you? Do you need any help?" And every one of them said, "I'm okay." Even though that they were lost. If you fall down or you get lost, reach out to someone, a friend or someone that knows you well, or even a coach, and get some help. So I just wanted to say that.
There's nothing wrong with getting help with anything and hiring out your weaknesses. That's what I like to do too. Like if I can't do something, I'm like, if I and I
Outsource.
yeah, I'm gonna outsource it. If I can't learn it fast enough or if I'm too frustrated, there's no reason to put yourself through all that. And I think that speaks to taking things away from your pile of things to do and pressures rather than adding to it. I do think that that's a very powerful thing that you talked about for to you know for giving your boss giving you one more responsibility and you're like, well, great, what am I going to let go of now so that I can focus on that new thing? I think that's really important. I think that the exact same thing can be implemented in all areas of your life, whether it's organizing, simply living. And admittedly, I think I can be a little better at that. We did get a couple more questions that came in from
Sure.
Community Tab if you want to jump in. So Jocelyn asks, what suggestions do you have for goals and dreams that seem to be consistently deferred by budget limits? That's interesting. It's an interesting question.
My budget limits. Can you read the question again, Kay?
Sure. What suggestions do you have for goals and dreams that seem to be consistently deferred by budget limits?
Ooh.
That's an interesting question. I think I would need a little bit more context for that one as well.
Yeah. I guess the only thing that jumps out at me is the word deferred.
Mm,
I I don't know whether I can answer this question without more context. My only if I could generalize the question and take out the budgetary piece, which I know is not what Jocelyn asked, and I appreciate that. I think that we always need to listen to the voices that are saying, I don't have time, I can't afford it, um, I'm not fit enough, I'm not flexible enough, I'm the wrong body size, I'm whatever it is. I think whilst I'm not trying to dismiss budgetary concerns at all, so just hear me really clearly on that. But I do think it's always worth sort of unpacking a little bit whether there are other layers or frictions that are getting in the way of us moving something forward. Have people, in fact, offered to help you? Like, this goes back to the help piece. There's been a real huge shift in my financial circumstances this year. And, my mum has stepped up a few times and offered to help me out with something because she wanted to, and it really mattered to me. So are there resources or offers of help that you maybe have, not talking about Jocelyn necessarily here, but that we automatically, they show up as resistance, either that we don't want to accept the help, or there are sort of obstacles that get in the way of us moving something forward, that if we really broke them down into bite-sized chunks, we might be able to break those obstacles down. But I'd have to have a little bit more context to sort of maybe about the types of things that Jocelyn is looking to do in order to be able to maybe make some more practical suggestions. But potentially, I know, for example, I used to do a lot of yoga classes, and there are so many free yoga options for me online right now, and I'm resourcing those. And there's so much generosity that's come out of COVID, of people that are willing to share their talents and what they have to offer with others, in recognition of the fact that that people can be struggling financially right now. And so, reach out to people and see if people would be willing to also offer ways for you to access what you're looking for, maybe that's in line on sliding scales, that's in line with your budget. I know that I offer my coaching on a sliding scale. There's no way that I could do it right now any other way.
That's a solid answer. That's a solid answer. We got one more question that came through the community tab. I saw someone just ask something in chat, and we will get to you as well. But I know you're in the chat right now too, who asked this question. So I'm going to read the question, and maybe we could get more context. So the question is, for goals not 100% in our control, how can we be optimistic about something we are trying to achieve without being crushed if it doesn't work out? I find it hard to stay motivated and hopeful with things like that. This is, oh my gosh, the username is hard for me. Telperianumeranor. I probably just butchered it. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll call you Tar. I'll call you Tar.
Can you repeat the question, Kay?
Absolutely. For goals not 100% in our control, how can we be optimistic about something we're trying to achieve without being crushed if it doesn't work out? I find it hard to stay motivated and hopeful with things like that.
That's a really great question. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is right at the beginning of the question, 100% in your control. So what percentage of it is in your control? And can you codify that? Can you separate out, get a piece of paper and write down the things that are out of your control and the things that are in your control, and and tackle those things that are in your control first? But it's kind of, and that sounds very simple. If it was simple, we'd do it. I mean, this is the other thing about organizing, right? If it was simple, we'd just get on and do it. But it's really, really difficult because it's so connected to who we are as human beings. I guess and I don't know whether this is going to be helpful. I can only share that it's helpful for me, is to think a little bit like a Buddhist, where Buddhists really, their philosophy is centered around non-attachment. And very much being in the moment and noticing. So I have a goal that of trying to do a little bit more meditation. And when you're meditating, I fail at it, I would say, every time I tried, because I'm someone that has a lot of thoughts. I'm a racer. I have a lot of thoughts that go on in my mind all the time. And what Buddhists help you to do is, when you see the thought that's coming across, or when you see the obstacle, is to say, there's the obstacle, I see you, and to just know that it's there. And it's just about this not becoming attached to the idea of success or failure. So how actually, if you have a goal, how can you actually measure your success in a way that will make you feel good about yourself? So let me try to think of an example. I think generally as human beings, we set ourselves very lofty goals. And which is why then we're so familiar with that feeling of failure, because we actually frequently set ourselves goals that are outside of our control, have elements of them that are outside of our control. So I don't know whether this is a helpful analogy, and forgive me because I'm kind of off the cuff here. But, maybe someone might say, I want to lose 30 pounds in 2021. It feels to me more likely that you would be successful if you set a goal of, I'd like to lose a little bit of weight on a monthly basis. Right? And so the measurement is smaller. It's a more cumulative goal, and you get to be more live with your goal in a smaller increment of time. So it kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier on about bite-sized chunks, which was immediately drawn with this question about things that are 100%, not 100% in your control. We definitely won't be successful if we don't really, really unpack the things that actually we might be able to have control about. And going back to that other thought we had about getting help, get some accountability partners, some friends, some loved ones to really help you to parcel out those things you have to control over. Or even if they're part of your obstacle, if your friends or your family or your children or your elderly parents, if they are part of your obstacle, how can you have a conversation with them that they might be able to release themselves somewhat of being part of your obstacles to free you up to move towards your goal? So involving other people who are seen as part of your obstacles in your conversations about what your goals are, because I'm sure they care about them.
I love that. I love that. This makes so much sense and has almost everything this can apply to your entire life, not just job goals, not just life goals, not just it's your entire life, This is amazing. We've got another question. I can put this one on the screen. What are some guidelines for deciding next steps in life after the initial self-work and a lot of old structures and goals don't resonate with me thanks to COVID? Where do I go from here? I'll bring it back.
Could you put the question? Yeah, thank you.
I'll bring it back. So this is this I feel like a lot of us feel like this. And I would also like to know.
Yeah, right. So I think this is not a direct answer to this question, and I may have you put it up again in a second, Kay, so that I'm reminded to come back to it directly. But one of the things that also gets in the way of us making decisions and goals about next steps in life is also our resistance to really stepping back from our current way of doing things long enough to be able to disassociate ourselves from the daily barrage of cues that inform our habits and behaviors. We have really lost appreciation in our current overly busy lives for just doing nothing. We don't appreciate the gaps in life, and actually we don't make them either. And so what are some guideline questions for deciding the next steps of life after the initial self-work? I just want to, and this may be not just in response to this particular question, so much of that self-work is about stepping back from your usual way of doing things, which of course COVID is, thanks COVID, and no, really, thanks COVID, has forced us to do, has forced us to disassociate with our normal way of doing things for an extended period of time. And it looks like we've got at least another 6 months of time to come out of our usual fundamental ways of doing things. And I think that's only when you get to truly listen, truly listen to what your desires and wants and needs are. It is impossible for us to hear them over the top of our daily existence. And so I just want to encourage people to get this to, in order to not have the old structures and goals be so prevalent and continuing to be habitual and resonating with you, you do have to take a significant step back and create space for yourself on a regular basis and be intentional about crafting out time where you do your version of doing nothing. So for me, that's running in the woods. I do all of my best thinking and writing and planning and arguing and ranting in the woods when I'm by myself, when I'm running, and then I come home and I can be productive and I can think about what the next steps in my life are. So I know I'm repeating myself here, but so much about transitions is about acknowledging those old structures and goals that are not resonating with you, creating a period of time free from your usual cues, behaviors, and habits to allow for those new next steps to surface. To answer the first part of the question, and again, this is very top level and generalized, but I would recommend, if you've not done it in a while or maybe ever, finding an exercise online about looking about what your core values are as a human being. What are those? What are the values that you have as an individual that govern the way you move in the world? And how have they changed over time as you're developing as a human being? So, and are you doing things in your life that are reflective and anchored in those values? It can be a really good reset exercise. So my core values have developed over time. Currently, I have them as generosity, humility, transparency, and curiosity. So as I was thinking about starting my new business, I'm like, how can I ground my future work and make sure that it's aligned with what my current core values are? So I think it's a great jumping off point. There are plenty of exercises online where you can be guided through a core values exercise, and I'm happy to share those with anyone. You can contact me through my website, lornajanenorris.com, and I'd be happy to share some templates with people if they want to just use that as a great January 2021 exercise. What are my core values, and how can I take steps that are governed by who I am as a human being and what matters to me?
That is amazing. That is awesome. By the way, you guys, if you guys don't know, she's got a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it. It's linked down in the description. Go give her a subscribe. Go give her some likes and all that. Comment. But there's some great rambles in the woods on the web on the YouTube channel. I love it. We've got. I think we have time for one more, and it is in the chat. We got Brianna. Do you have any tips for letting go of old structures on a deeper level? Big question. I know.
Big question, Brianna. Do you have any tips for letting go of old structures on a deeper level?
And Brianna's in the chat, so if you want to give us more context, you can. But that's a big question. It's huge, and I don't know if I don't know if I've said this online before, but the only reason I am here on YouTube is because I had the rug pulled out from under me. I had a very nice, cushy consulting job that had a great salary. It had a great time structure, and that was gone suddenly, and I found myself with things to do and time. So I took that opportunity, even though I was really really down for like a couple of weeks. I I I just embraced the change and took an opportunity and ran with it and went with my gut, and I was like, I'll just start making some more videos.
Yeah. It is a big question, and one that I'm really conscious. I wish I just had a really beautiful answer that's going to come out of my mouth, and I don't have one, Brianna. I do have a book recommendation that maybe might be helpful. So a lot of my work is based off my own personal Bible. It's called Transitions, and it's a book by William Bridges. William Bridges. And I've gifted this book to so many of my colleagues, friends, and peers, and I often use it with my clients. And I just think I could not recommend this book enough to people who are wanting to let go of things that are no longer serving them. What's interesting, he uses a three-part structure for the book. What's ending, then he has the neutral zone, which is all about this idea of retreating. And then he has new beginnings. So endings, the neutral zone, and new beginnings. And what's so fundamentally powerful for me about the book is he aligns that structure with where you are in your development as a human being. He talks a lot about how once a decade, we evolve significantly. And I'm thinking about writing a book called Approaching 50, about being in your 40s. It is this decade where, whether we like it or not, we're faced with a keep dump list. Here's our relationships, here's our career, here's our stuff, here's our money, here's our people, here's our assets, here's our abilities, our strengths, our weaknesses. Okay, what do you want to keep? What do you want to dump? But we don't tend to do that unless the rug gets pulled out. And then those choices sometimes get made for us, and then opportunities feel easier. Anyway, so I'm sorry to kind of go around your question, Brianna. If you haven't read William Bridges' Transitions, I highly recommend it. And I'm sure that you'll get something out of that book, which will help to answer that question for you on a deep level.
I getting some really powerful stuff out of this. Lorna Jane, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Is there anything you want to close with? Where can they find you? You have any,
Sure.
sites you can steer them towards?
Sure. So yeah, I have a website that kind of outlines my philosophy a little bit in a deeper way, and has I also put my blog, which is called Weekly Rambles. I ramble while I'm rambling. And it's really inspired by philosophy, writers, leaders, poets, colleagues, and friends. And we explore sort of issues around transition on a weekly basis. And there's ways to contact me through there. Most of the work that I do is coaching people around transition. I have a lot of clients who are either in career transition or considering a career transition. There's resources, there's books, and so please check it out. You can contact me. It's Lorna Jane Norris. So Lorna Jane is up on the screen, I think. Norris, Norris. I'd love to hear from you, and I always offer a free conversation with anyone who's considering having some coaching to support them through a transition. It's so hard to do it without some external help. So whether that's a coach or a friend that you feel will be able to be that third party for you, all coaching is creating some time and having somebody who has no investment in your situation other than to create some space and structure for you to work through something. You don't have to have been in coaching before. It's a little different from therapy. It's about setting an intention. I want to work on this goal, and I need someone to create the time. I need to feel accountable to it. And it's as simple as that. So I have a sliding scale, and it would be a joy to hear from any of your listeners, Kay. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to meet these great folks.
Of course, you were amazing. This was so amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. I had so much fun. I hope you guys took a
Too.
lot away from this. 2020 was like really special for all of us around the world, and it's created some really interesting uh, opportunities and also opportunities for change in our lives. And I hope that you will be willing to grab on to 2021 as the new thing, the opportunity to either like go one way or go the other. So I
Yeah, I
thank you
want to kind
guys.
of just
Yeah,
say,
go ahead.
can I just second that, Kay?
Hmm.
Like, I
Hmm.
think there is this pervasive feeling like we don't want to go back,
Yeah,
just go back to the way things were. We
yeah.
got to do better than that as human beings around the planet, around
Hmm.
the movement towards social justice, about the way that healthcare works in this country, and all sorts of things that have been, really had a bright light shone on them that are not necessarily functioning well on an individual level in our own lives and on a larger level. We really want to feel that what we've been through and are still going through matters. And the first place to make those decisions about how you want to do things differently is with yourself. No one else can make those decisions for us. And in the
Mm.
time, it's so painful. But the aftermath of times like 2020 is when profound change can happen. But it does start with us.
Yeah, yeah. We can heal. We've gotten through this.
We
We've
can heal and get stronger and get stronger.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Lorna, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on. It's
you. Thank you so
so
much. I
much
really, really
fun.
enjoyed it. And best of luck to everyone. We've got this.
We definitely we got this. We got this. Okay, you guys. We'll be
Great.
back next week with a new live show. I even forgot what I was talking about next week, but we'll be back.
There'll
And
be one.
there'll be one. It's already
It'll happen.
scheduled. It's already scheduled. So I hope you guys are having a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.